I'm experimenting with new openings where I don't yell at you. Instead, I make weird noises. Well, you know who I am. And if not, converted man here. Oh, it's a mid-sized dive. A mid-sized dive because it's not a shallow dive. It's not a long dive. It's somewhere in between, which means we're only going to be here for 5 days. Yes, 5 days. Phantasmo X. One of these days I'll figure out how to say your name, but that day is not today, as I set up my webcam and I decide whether or not I want to show my face. Yeah, I think I do. You know, make sure my, you know, I'll look nice. I mean, I know, but, you know. Oh, why am I making all these noises? Oh, who knows? Let's see. All right. All right, where is it? All right, and nothing but professionalism. Yes. I'm pretty... there. Oh, whoa. Oh, yes. Oh, look, I do look nice. Yes. All right. Lighting is kind of weird. What is this? It looks red. I don't know what's going on there. Well, I was eating salsa. So that's what. My face is just weird. I don't know. What am I supposed to do with it? I got a green shirt on. It says, "That's how I roll." It's got sushi. Except for this one. This one's different. I don't know. But anyways, they're all happy to be eaten. And I love sushi. So that's what that's about. And you're like, okay, get to the point. All right. Let me. So this is Dr. Derek. Here's his channel. Now he actually does have a PhD in philosophy. You know, it's you know, it's something. And I forget what else. He had a history of philosophy, and history of philosophy and psychiatry. You know, he's into virtue ethics, which is interesting, and medical ethics, and also philosophy of religion, philosophy of motion, epistemology, and existentialism. So he's a philosopher. Why do we give PhDs to philosophers? I don't know, but we do, you know. So, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, he did the work that he needed to do to get that degree. I don't know what he's done with it, but he's got it. You know, it's something. Oh, right. Before I forget, I gotta do this. No reason, just I felt like it, you know. So I gotta do this for you.
Welcome to hell, motherfucker!
That escalated quickly. All right, so let's check out this video and complain about it, shall we? Yes.
Maybe you were so scandalized and you're so hurt that that's all you can think about. I get it. But if atheism is true, who gives a crap about what all those religious people are doing? In the end, it doesn't matter. Like, and so I find it really, really hard to believe or hard to understand why somebody would just like, yes, we have no purpose. Like, if you want to be a nihilist about it, yes, there's no purpose. There's no meaning in life. There's no hope whatsoever. But why would I choose that? Why would I choose that at all? Like,
Mike is muted. Always great. Nothing but professionalism here, folks. I guess that this is a conversation that he's clipped from something longer because he's just kind of like immediately starts in. Oh, sorry. Why did I do that? Why would I choose that? So why would I choose nihilism? I'm not a nihilist. Maybe I'll have to do another informal poll of atheists to ask if they're nihilists or not. I'm going to get to that video. Don't worry. I'll have a video up that shows the poll that I did of atheists that all turned out to be materialists or naturalists, even though I thought that wouldn't be the result. Oh, well. I'll have that up later at some point. I don't know when. But anyways, Why would I choose it? Well, maybe it's real. I mean, if that is the truth, if nothing matters, and whatever, you live, you die, whatever, doesn't matter other than your subjective feelings, which matter to you but don't matter in an objective sense. If that is the way reality is, why would you choose that? Well, because it's what reality is. So this is nothing more than an appeal to consequence / an appeal to emotion. I don't want this to be true, so it's not true. I'm not going to choose this. I'm going to choose this other thing and pretend that that's true, even though it's not. I'm going to pretend that life has an objective purpose, that there's more to it than this, because that just makes me feel good, and I just want that to be true. I just need it to be true. Oh, it's so great. Why would I want to not have anime waifu Sailor Mercury be real? She'd be my age by now, so it's fine. You know, I know she's young in the cartoon. She's my age if she was real, okay? All right, so she'd be my age, and she'd be right here, and I'd be like, hey, look, it's Sailor Mercury. Why wouldn't I want her to be real? So I guess she's just real now, because I don't want her to not be real. Damn it, it didn't work. It didn't just poof into existence. Why would I want to not have $1 million in my bank account? I better call the bank. Boop, 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 boop. Hello, bank. I don't have $1 million? Oh, man. Why would I want to choose reality over fantasy? That's all this is. If, indeed, the nihilistic view is indeed the actual conclusion of your observation of the world. Now, I don't know any nihilists. I don't think I do. I don't know. Maybe somebody is a nihilist, but given what I know of people that I've interacted with, it doesn't seem like the atheists and skeptics and whatever the label is, the people I know, doesn't seem like they're nihilists. Seems like they care about their life, the life of other people they know. They care about the truth. They care about reality. They care about science and logic. They want to understand the things in this world. They want to improve the world in some way, shape, or form. And yes, our time is limited, but it matters now to us, and it doesn't have to be objective, because we feel that emotion is real, and it compels us to behave in ways that we hope, we think, we believe that will affect things in a positive way. And right now, the world is going crazy. America may be going to war with Iran, whatever, or helping Israel to fight them, or I don't know. Man, it's nuts. It's crazy. There's nothing I can do about that. Not a thing. I could write letters. I could complain. I could make video after video about it. My impact is going to be negligible at best. And if you're an activist and you're working on it and you're actually doing the things that you should be doing to try to make a difference, maybe you will, but maybe not. But is it worth the effort? Don't know. You don't know until you try. People put on protests. Will that do anything? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not. It won't affect the outcome, more than likely. So how could we? Well, hypothetically, if the military just said, we're not going to do it, that would do it. Can they do that? Can they disobey a direct order from the president? I don't know what would happen if they did. I have no idea. We've never seen that. So, but, again, these are things beyond my scope. My point is that matters because people are going to get hurt and killed. Whether they're good, bad, or other, I don't know. But those people are going to get hurt and killed because reasons. And maybe they're good reasons, maybe they're bad reasons, I don't know. But I don't want that to be. I want humans to find ways to cooperate with each other. I want humans to interact in peaceful ways. So let's have a debate. Let's have a discussion. Let's sit down. Let's negotiate this. You have your views. I have my views. Maybe we can find some compromise. Neither one of us is fully happy, but we're able to live with each other. Can we do that? No. Why? Because you have this piece of land right here. It's about this big on the map. And that's mine because God gave it to me. No. That piece of land, that's ours because God gave it to us. Well, now what? They both think that God gave it to them, and there's no room for compromise, no room for negotiation because God said it, and that settles it. Now, you might say, okay, but there's other reasons people go to war. Yes, but it's one more reason. So if they didn't have that, right? If they didn't have the whole God told them that this piece of dirt was theirs and holy, would they care about that piece of dirt? I don't know. I mean, it's not valuable. There's nothing. The only value is that they've placed a value on it to say it's holy. If that went poof, they don't care anymore. There wouldn't be any reason to fight. Well, we fought over it so long, but we don't care anymore because it's not holy. There's no oil there. There's no gold there. There's nothing of value that will enrich you. Well, but maybe they just want the prestige of having that location and being like, haha, we won. Okay, how about we split it in half and each of you get half? Well, I mean, no, we're not going to be happy with that. Yeah, but neither are they. So can we live with that? Don't know. It's worth a try, but we can't do that with the God equation on the board. So that's a problem. Why do we care? Because we don't want people to be hurt. We don't want people to die. We don't want people fighting each other endlessly. All these wars that we do with each other, it's just insanity, right? It's like, what are we fighting? We're fighting over land. We're fighting over resources. Don't you have enough on your side of things? Is my side that attractive to you? I mean, can't you just live there and be happy with what you've got? Make that place really cool. Focus on your own stuff. Make your own area be awesome so that why worry? I'm going to leave you alone. You leave me alone. No. I want to pick on you because we picked on each other and we've been doing that. So let's just shake hands and be done with it. I don't know, but it matters to us, doesn't it? Even though if we die and that's it, we don't even know that we were alive because we don't know anything anymore and whatever. Okay, so what? It still mattered here and now. So this nihilistic view of reality, I just don't buy into it. But if that is indeed the truth of the matter, that in the end, there's nothing objective. Okay, and well, then we might as well be nihilists. I don't want to be a nihilist. I can't be a nihilist because I can't agree with the ideas that it all means nothing, because it doesn't mean nothing. It means something to me. I can agree with the idea that objectively it doesn't mean anything, but that's not going to make me different because I already have that idea. So I'm not the sad nihilist is, oh, everything doesn't matter. It's like, why would you even live with yourself then? Not, by the way, if you do feel any weird feelings, please get help. Your life matters, absolutely. Okay, but I don't think a true nihilist wouldn't exist for very long, and yeah, I guess that's a true nihilist fallacy. PhD stands for Doctor of Philosophy. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, so if X is true and we don't want X to be true, then X must be false. That's all this is. All right. Back to the video. Man, that was a long way to say that, wasn't it?
I mean, maybe it makes you happy. Cool. You're, in that hedonistic kind of approach to morality, and you're just going to go after things that make you happy. But that's fine. But I just find it really puzzling. Like, if religious people are just a bunch of dumb idiots, just take the W and leave. Like, just go have fun. Just do whatever you want to with pleasure in your life. Go, whatever it is. But I just don't get it, honestly.
I mean, I thought you were somebody with a PhD that studies stuff, so you don't get it. Your appeal to personal ignorance doesn't make an argument. That was a quick video, wasn't it? You don't get it. That doesn't make it false. So you're very shallow in understanding. Okay. We humans care about what's going on in the world. And as far as taking the W, the religion people are just idiots or crazy, whatever. Yeah. And they're doing stuff because of that insanity. They're not living in a bubble. Okay. They affect other people. They affect the world. That affects me because I'm in the world. Now, let's say that we rounded up all the religious people and put them on an island together. Oh, they'd kill each other off pretty good, but some of them wouldn't. But at any rate, then they're just affecting each other. Could I then go, well, job done, don't have to worry about them? No. Personally, I couldn't do that because I would care about those people. I would still care about them. I would still care that they held beliefs that were not true, not based on reason or logic or science, but instead based on superstition, myth, faith, and feelings. Because to me, the truth matters, and I don't want them on that island. I want them here with everybody else, helping us to make the best possible world we can. And without the religious baggage, maybe we'd have religion without the baggage. I think there are a few religions that may be qualified, but maybe we can make them better. Why not? If we detach the God said X part and just said, here's the new religion and here's how it works, and we all just agree, then sure, why not? Maybe some mix of Buddhism and Shintoism and, Jainism. I don't know. But whatever that would look like, we could make a religion that was coherent, didn't abuse the members, didn't lie to people, etc. And so we could still have that spirituality or whatever you want to call it, and we wouldn't have the it has to be true aspect of it, but you would be part of this group of people trying to make the world better, sustain the world for as long as possible, find other worlds to colonize, perhaps even create the engine for this out of the sun so that we can propel the solar system throughout the universe and seed it with humanity so that we could maybe figure out how to stop entropy, make our own universe, whatever, who knows what we could do as a species. But no, let's live in superstition and adhere to Bronze Age, Iron Age, whatever age mythologies and beliefs that we've had for thousands of years that haven't gotten us very far. Let's just keep doing what we've been doing and just see what that gets us. Because, belief and faith and prayer has always worked, always, 100%, it's never failed. Oh, wait, no, that's the opposite. So, look, you can be the person pulling backwards on the forward progress of humanity, or you can join us in pulling forwards. I'd rather you be joining us pulling forwards than pulling backwards. And it does matter because that's one less person that's helping people and society and everything move onwards. So, yeah. All right. Let's see. There was another one. Does atheism have its own worldview? Let's dive deep. I'm not sure how deep you can go with 4 minutes and 8 seconds, but okay. What if you can't understand God? Thor or Shiva use logic. Oh, that's got to be good. Let's check
Either
that
there
out.
is a God. There either is a God or there isn't a God. Yeah, thank you. I really gratefully you agree with that. Honestly, that's
Well, maybe there was a God and then it died. So, I mean, now there isn't a God, but there was at one point. But if God doesn't have to obey the laws of logic, then why couldn't there be a God and not God at the same time? Whee! Anyways.
just agreeing with the law of logic, the law of excluded the law of non-contradiction. Like this, just like there's no in between existence. There's no in between. Like, and hey,
yeah, but what if God doesn't obey the laws of logic?
you might be like, oh, which God? Well, do it. Do the same proposition for every single God. Just like a God. Well, a Christian. There's a Christian God or there isn't a Christian God. That's it. So either a or not a. That is a law of logic. Either there is a 1,222nd Hindu God, or there's not a 1,222nd Hindu God.
Okay.
Just do it for every single God you can imagine, and the same result will follow. It either exists or it doesn't exist. I mean,
okay. So nothing here. He didn't actually answer the question. All right. Let's see. What actually counts as evidence? Okay, let's see this.
I'm very liberal with respect to what evidence is. Evidence.
Well, there's your problem.
It's evidence. Evidence could be like, you think about a courtroom, right? So anything
Oh, geez, here we go.
Entered into evidence could be either for either side, right? Pro or con, right?
But you didn't define what evidence is, though. You just said evidence is evidence. That's not a definition. This isn't very deep for a doctor of philosophy.
So evidence, look.
Also, why do you have a green screen with lots of books behind you? Is that like, that's got to be a green screen. Like, that's not real behind you, is it? I don't know. Maybe it is.
Hey, you want to know what evidence for God exists? The sunrise, right?
The sunrise. The sunrise. The sunrise is evidence that God exists. How? How is the sunrise evidence of anything other than the sun rising? The way the earth rotates and, you know, does an orbit around the sun, and, you know, we're here and then the earth is spinning and eventually we get here and we see the sun, and how that's evidence that that's a thing. That isn't, how is that you need association causation there. What the hell? What? What?
That's one piece of evidence, but also it's a piece of evidence for the atheist. I think that's
then it isn't really evidence, is it? Because the evidence should lead you to a single conclusion, not two conclusions. What are you even talking about?
That is my liberal interpretation of what evidence is. It is
that's your nonsense idea of what evidence is. Okay.
Entered into the evidence pool and can be used to support either side. That's what she's saying here. And so, Michael, as you're saying, that there's no good evidence, that would be a reasonable, at least, claim, right? To say there's no good evidence. Okay.
No, there's no evidence at all, even a little, that there's a thing, God or supernatural. And in fact, I'm going to use this guy's own video to demonstrate he agrees with that statement I just made. So he already knows that there isn't evidence for God and that there can't be. But he's going to pretend now that anything and everything can be evidence of God because he's liberal with his use of what evidence is. Okay.
Okay, you've at least said something that's reasonable right there. But to say that there's no evidence, obviously that's bonkers. I think that just like saying there's no evidence for we went to the moon. Yeah, there's evidence. Yeah,
there's overwhelming evidence for that. We can test it. We can observe it. There you go. You can shine a laser power you get a laser that's powerful enough. You can shine it and hit the mirror that's left on the moon, and it will bounce off, and you can measure that. You can look with a very powerful telescope. You might even be able to. Well, I mean, I don't know how powerful a telescope you'd have. I don't know if you can see the landing on the moon, but you could. I mean, there's ways to know that we actually went there that are testable. Is there any sort of test that we can run on God?
No evidence for flat Earth. Yeah, there's evidence for flat Earth. It's just bad evidence. So like just understand what we mean by evidence, right? So
Well, but you just said evidence is evidence. So you didn't really define evidence. You just said it's whatever. Anything is evidence. So this is evidence that I'm a lobster because that's evidence, but it's not good evidence that I'm a lobster. So it's not actually evidence then. See, you need a definition that's actually coherent of some sort. I mean, you could just pull the definition from a dictionary or two if you wanted to do that or something. Or you can use your own idea. Now, evidence, I think, needs to be demonstrably demonstratable. It needs to be testable. It needs to be repeatable. So if you have an idea and you need to be able to show that idea is true with empirical evidence or a repeatable test or a valid and sound argument. And if you don't have one of those, then in my book, you don't have anything. So there's certain things like, I know, and he gets into numbers being real and all this in other videos, but numbers are abstract objects. They don't really exist in a sense. We made them up. They could have been anything. They're just symbols. They represent an idea. The idea is it's a complicated idea, really, but it's all language based. There's linguistics. You could actually trace back and how other tribes use numbers and language to identify things. Some tribes only have the number 1, and they just say 11111. Some have 5, some have odd number systems. So it's like some tribes are like, you have one thing, you have two things, and then you have a whole bunch of things. So they don't really have numbers. They don't really need them because they don't need it to survive. Depends on the complexity of what you're trying to do. So we made up numbers. We made up those concepts. Now, why it works? Well, because it has to work a certain way. And it's very interesting that it always works that way, but there's no magic there. Okay. So with numbers, you say this is what it is, and it's you just say that's it. It's called a priori, or it's a there's another word for it, but I can't think of it now. But it's just asserted to be that. An axiom, that's the word. It's an axiom. Okay. Now, some religious people have tried to make God into an axiom. God just is. The problem is you put God into a category of other axioms when you do that. And all axioms are objects of the mind, meaning that if you want God to be an axiom, then God is an object of the mind, which means God doesn't really exist except in your mind. And God needs to exist out here for it to matter to many religious people. For some, I guess it can be okay with God just being in the mind, which would make God imaginary. It would make God not real. It would make God something you believe in, but it's not really real. Maybe it's useful, maybe it's interesting, maybe you like it, but ultimately it's not. It's the same real as the number 1. It means we made it up, and it's art, and maybe you can use it, but God is still different than the number 1. Because what God is depends upon who you ask, whereas the number 1 is pretty consistent across the board because we've all kind of agreed on what that is. Okay. So, yeah, it's just.
Back to this, she shares it. She says, look, it would violate that we portion our beliefs to the evidence, right? We should believe because of evidence, not because belief is beneficial. And this obviously would be a nice objection to Pascal's wager, because Pascal's wager is not an evidential argument for God's existence, like we.
Yeah, Pascal's wager is the worst argument. Well, all the arguments suck, but Pascal's wager is not even an argument. I've gone over the problems of Pascal's wager. I'll link that video. It's just, if
following Thomas Aquinas' 5 ways and other arguments for God's existence,
which are all bad.
The wager is not an evidential argument for God's existence.
No, it's not even an argument.
Pragmatic arguments for God's existence, or a practical or a prudential argument for God's existence. I should believe because it's beneficial to me, so I don't burn in hell, not because I have evidence to. So that's what this objection says.
Yeah, I know.
However, the response is this: if your evidence for theism is permissive, meaning you could be rational as a theist, atheist, or agnostic, you can take Pascal's wager and still respect evidentialism.
Okay, under those criteria, you could take my challenge video. Okay, so let me get that up here as well, since I mentioned it. Okay, where is it? Okay, so here's that. So let me link that. Here's my challenge video, and here is the definite Pascal's wager video. Okay, so the challenge that I have up is a video, and actually I have a little story about this. So I sent this, somebody from chat, when I was doing a live stream, wanted to talk desperately about Jesus and how much Jesus loves us and all this. And I was like, email me. We'll set up a day and time to talk. Now, they didn't do that. They did email me saying, what evidence would convince you of God or Jesus or something like that? And I sent them this video. And I said, watch this video. Respond to this video. Give me your answers to this video. And the answers that you give me will tell you the sort of evidence that I would need to believe Jesus anything. I haven't gotten response from them. That was it. Nothing. So I think that they watched the video and realized, oops, I don't have anything. So if you haven't watched that video that I have, it's very quick. Whoa. What the hell? That's not it. What the hell? Just decided to play a different video. 54 seconds. One of my fastest videos ever. And it describes a challenge that you can take, and it asks the question, well, why won't you take this challenge? This is Pascal's wager. Okay, I make a claim in the video. I say you can get whatever you want, anything you want. Your wish will be granted, but you have to do this thing. So nobody's done it yet, by the way. Nobody has done the challenge. Nobody has actually tried doing the thing that I said to do and seeing whether they get the wish or not. Nobody has tried it. And why is that? There must be some reason for that. I've had that challenge up for 11 months now. Nobody has attempted it, so I don't know what's up with that. You tell me. So you go check out that challenge and you respond to that, and then you'll understand why Pascal's wager sucks. But if that's enough, this is actually the definitive Pascal's wager, and it actually shows you the truth table of Pascal's wager actually revealed. Actually, I don't think I did good enough on this. I think that there's more possible choices, but I'll go over it really quick. Okay, so this is a truth table. There's believe and don't believe. Okay, and then there's God. There's an afterlife and care. That's what those letters stand for. So here, let me get really. There we go. Okay, so if there's a God and there's an afterlife and God cares that you believe in God, then believing in God has a good result. But not believing in God doesn't. Okay, so that's what that means. Okay, if there's a God and an afterlife, but God doesn't care that you believe in it, then whether you believe or not is also a positive result. If there's a God but no afterlife, but God cares that you believe in it, then believing or not believing also is a bad result. Okay, if there's a God but no afterlife and God doesn't care, then it doesn't matter whether you believe or don't. If there's no God, but there is an afterlife, then it doesn't matter if you believe or don't, because that's a positive result. if there's no God and no afterlife, then it doesn't matter if there's a God and afterlife, but the God is a God of skeptics that rewards people for not believing, then believing is bad and not believing is good. Okay? There you go. There's actual Pascal's wager. A bit more complex than usually you see it. And I suspect that that truth table is even longer than what I made it. But I did the best I thought I could do at the time. And if you want to make a better one, you're free to. It is not even a wager. Because it's like, how do you know which one weighs out more at the end? Is it believing or not believing? I don't know. It depends if God cares. It depends if there's an afterlife. So all of that combined, pretty much the results are about even, but maybe you could weigh it in one favor or another. It is not a actual anything at all of any substance whatsoever. It is completely non-logical. It isn't anything as far as arguments go. And it shouldn't be repeated and reduxed, but it's all the apologist has, I guess. All right, back to his thing on what evidence isn't, I guess, because he doesn't know what the hell evidence is.
It's because more than one belief attitude fits your evidence. This is also what's considered as a proposition being underdetermined by the evidence. That's what we mean. So the idea that here's all this evidence, but it doesn't definitively point to one proposition being certainly true over another.
Then it's not really evidence. If it doesn't point to a definitive answer, then I don't know why you're even calling it evidence at that point. And I don't know what you're talking about because he's being vague. He's just using the word evidence. He's not using specifics here. So, but yeah, like I said, I will use his own video now. I'm done with this. Enough of this nonsense. Where was it? Oh, here we go. This is it. Here we go. In this video, hold on. In this video, he's complaining about godless engineer or whatever. And in this video, he basically says that you can't find God using science. So everything that he was complaining about, oh, you have evidence for God, you have evidence of God. Apparently, you don't have evidence for God. So I'm not sure which it is. Either there is evidence or there isn't evidence. Well, evidence is just whatever. And it doesn't necessarily point to God, but it could, but it might be not, but whatever. But, science can't point to God because it can't because reasons. Okay, so let's check it out.
And as soon as the energy stops flowing through our brains, then there goes our personality, there goes our consciousness, there goes everything. There's no empirical evidence for any of the topics that he listed. So therefore, there's no reason for us to believe that.
So there's no empirical evidence for things like seeing God, seeing the soul, all these sorts of things. Of course, there's no empirical evidence for something that's not empirical. So empirical means.
Okay, so this is the problem. Yeah, there's no empirical evidence for something that's not empirical. Okay. Cool, nice, interesting, duh. How do you know it's a thing then? You would need some way to test it. How are you going to test the proposition then? If you're not talking just abstract ideas, then you don't have anything. And that's the problem with the God and the supernatural. I just said magic in my comment on this video because you are talking about magic, okay? You're not talking about anything other than ideas that you have. You're not demonstrating that that's a reality. You're demonstrating that it's an idea, which I agree with. It's an idea, but it's not real out here with us. If there's no way to test it, no way to verify it, then how do you know what it is in the first place? Well, you've defined it as this thing. Okay, cool. But that doesn't mean that is what it is. It just means what you've defined it as. You said, okay, this is what it is. That's an axiom, right? That's what it is. Okay, because I just said so. Cool. Okay, but how do we know that that is a real thing and not just an idea that we made up? Now,
means using the 5 senses, right? Your senses like taste, touch, smell, hearing, and sight, right? Now, why would I expect if those senses, those empirical navigators, let's call them, if they are tuned to only pick up the natural world, why would I expect for them to detect anything that is not in the natural world?
You wouldn't. So either there is no non-natural world at all. Also, this negates that people feel like they felt God. People feel like they felt something spiritual, but it's just a feeling, and we can induce that feeling with people. There's the God helmet, and this thing has been put on people's head, and there's an electromagnet in there that does stuff. But there's also the God helmet that they put on people that doesn't do anything. It's a placebo. And they tell them that it's the God helmet, and they experience God, or at least they report, they report experiencing God because they were told that they were going to, and that's enough for some people. So we can induce this feeling of God artificially, and we can induce the God by just telling people that they're going to feel God. So there's no difference from that person's perspective. So how do we know it's God and not just a feeling? Because everything that we have suggests it's just a feeling you have, and there's no way to tell it's actually God, unless, of course, God's up there and he's like, are they putting that God helmet on again? Oh, I guess they put it on. I'm going to let them feel me right now. Okay, they're feeling me. That's me, though. It's not the God helmet. Oh, they put on the placebo God helmet. Got to make them feel me, too, just in case. Because God is untestable. So God is not just not empirical, it's also non-testable. I could say, hey, God, make my little lobster pal here float. Oh, God didn't do that. Why? Well, because God didn't feel like doing it today. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe I didn't ask sincerely enough. Well, no, you're not allowed to test God. God doesn't want to be tested. God doesn't want you to believe in it because of proof. It wants you to believe in it for bad argument. Because if you knew there was a God, then you wouldn't have free will or whatever the nonsense it is. Okay, back to this.
I shouldn't expect that. They can't. In principle, they can't in principle pick up anything in the supernatural if they're.
You mean the magical realm, right? You can't pick up magic. Okay, so this is what I said in my comment on this video. I said, magic is not observable. Of course you can't observe it. Also, you can't test it at all, not even a little is. The problem is whenever you try to test magic, the magical realm knows this and doesn't want to be tested, so it makes it look like it's just sleight of hand. All the tricks done in Penn and Teller Fool Us are real magic, but when they point out how it could be done, the magical realm closes and makes it seem like a trick rather than real magic. You can't test for it, nor can you prove it's true. But you see, it is true because I said so. Is this a good reason to think magic is real? What's his response? Let's see. Suggesting that because Christians believe in the supernatural divine, they believe in magic seems dismissive and uncharitable to me. It's like me calling atheists heathen God-haters to go to hell. I mean, we could go that route, but I certainly prefer not to. Way to not answer my question at all. Want to try again. The dishonesty of this guy is amazing. I don't know if you saw that exchange. Okay, hold on. That's amazing. That's just wonderful. So I ask a question, you don't answer the question I ask, and instead accuse me of suggesting that Christians believe in magic. I didn't mention Christians. I said I made a statement about reality and told you, and then I asked you a question about my statement about reality. you assume that I'm talking about Christians. You assume that I'm saying Christians believe in magic. I didn't say that. You guys do, but whatever. I mean, magic, faith, whatever, miracles, magic, same thing. But anyway, so what else do we got here?
They're not attuned to the supernatural. They can only detect and pick up things in the natural world. So
right. So there is no way to detect the supernatural. Remember last time he said that there was evidence of the supernatural, so there must be some way to detect the supernatural. But now, well, there isn't any way to detect the supernatural. Which is it? I don't know. I wish he'd make up his mind.
So this is a common complaint with atheists, with skeptics, the idea that, well, no empirical, well, of course there's non-empirical. There won't be direct empirical evidence. There can be indirect empirical evidence, sure.
What the bleep is indirect empirical evidence? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Right? So there can be direct empirical evidence. Sorry, there can be indirect empirical evidence of some efficacy of prayer, right?
Okay, so you want to bring up prayer? Sure, I've got metadata studies on prayer. I just talked about this. So 2-3 different metadata studies have been done on prayer, and the results are what we would expect from chance alone. Nothing. People didn't get better significantly during intercessory prayer or not. So it's a null result. There is no way to test this thing. Apparently, it would be cool, it'd be great, but it doesn't appear to happen. Every time it's been studied, and then you match that study with other studies, and you look at all the results, and that's what a metadata study is. You're studying the studies. You go, man, the result is pretty much what we'd expect from chance. And I talked about the other problems with trying to study prayer in the first place. But yeah, God is untestable. So it's not just unempirical, it's also non-testable. That's a problem.
And this is what psychologists of religion do. This is what people do in the lab. They assume that God doesn't exist, and they just look at the efficacy of.
They don't. No, people in the lab don't assume that God doesn't exist. That's not a thing. That's just a construct straw man. You don't know what people in the lab. What are you talking about?
What you said in a chant or in a prayer or whatever, and they look, that's something that's directly observable. I can see you doing the prayer, and then I can see whether the cancer that you prayed for was healed.
Yes, and when those studies have been done, the result is nothing, butt kiss. But here's what's really interesting about God. Okay, we know that cancer goes into remission because we know that the body fights against it. The body has all sorts of white blood cells and all sorts of other stuff in it that I'm not a scientist, not a biologist. I can't go into all that. Okay, but we know that. It's rare, but it does happen. So it's not something that's never happened. Now, here is what has never happened. Regrowing a limb. And Christians hate. There used to be a website back in the day, God doesn't heal amputees. I don't know if it's still around. I'd have to look. But yeah, God doesn't heal amputation. Why is that? Don't know. Also now, okay, let's see if we can see this or not. Let's see if I can get this here. Yeah. So I got this little scar here. I've had that for a long time because I had minor surgery way, way, way back. God doesn't heal that. Also, somebody here. Hello, I'm doing a video live. Anyways, why not? I don't know, but it's or teeth regrowing. That would be nice. But those things, that would be something we've never seen. We know that human bodies don't do that. Why can't we get a demonstrable test of that occurring?
That's it. That's directly observable. That's empirical. But what I can't empirically observe in principle, because it's not possible, because it's not natural, I can't directly empirically observe anything supernatural. So I don't see why this is an objection, to be honest with you. I don't see why this is a problem at all.
that they
And sorry, I didn't say earlier to hello to John. Oh, there you are. Okay, good to see you. And I have an email to get back to with you. So perhaps we'll see. We'll see.
exist.
Chances are the answer is no, which has led many in the modern world to conclude that there is nothing to life but the physical world. For materialists, as they're called, we are nothing more than a collection of cells, a series of firing neurons giving the illusion of consciousness, but ultimately just bags of flesh.
I mean, that's a really reductionist kind of way of viewing it. Like, yeah, in
It's a reductionist way of viewing it because
Yeah, and again, in my subjective limited experience dealing with people, I don't hear people describing it that way. Even the most hardcore naturalist will say, yeah, we are a collection of parts, but that's not all we are, because that doesn't wrap up what we are. We are also X, Y, and Z. We're also an emergent property of all these things that build us. Okay. The building blocks are what we're built from, but that's not, quote, all we are, because it doesn't describe all the things that we are. So it is a construct straw man of a materialist or a naturalist, unless you can show a materialist or naturalist that's actually said all we are is this. But every time I've ever heard that, it's always been from an apologist, not from a materialist naturalist. Maybe somebody somewhere has said it, I don't know. But anyways,
atheists can be, well, let's say, I won't even throw atheists under the bus. I'll say naturalists are necessarily reductionist about this.
in the grand scheme of things, like objectively outside of human emotion and
Let me follow up with what I said there. I don't want to just drop a bomb on you and just not claim. Naturalists are necessarily reductionistic about this. You are just bag of bones and flesh. That's it. Now, you can be an atheist and be a non-naturalist.
yeah, okay. So this isn't proving his ideas at all in any way, shape, or form. This is complaining about what he thinks a naturalist or materialist would say. But you note that he doesn't give us any example to show that a naturalist or materialist did say this. And at best, that would be a complaint about that one person, not every single naturalist or materialist. So it's a construct straw man. And there's no positive indication of anything that you're arguing for. So what's your point? So what if that's what naturalists or materialists say or believe? Who cares? What's your argument?
Like, and many people in academic philosophy take this route. I don't think it's tenable, but I think it's respectable, right? That so I think that to be a naturalist or a materialist is a really untenable position. Because I mean, so here's why. So if naturalism is true, that means only the natural world exists.
All right, so here we have. I'll go back on thing. Oops, man, clicking the wrong button. Nothing but professionalism here. There it is. Okay, so if X is true, then Z. I don't want Z to be true, so X can't be true. Appeal to consequence. That's what this is. Period. End of story. If it's true, I don't want it to be true, so it can't be true. That's what appeal to consequence. Let's hear it though.
Like, no, in other words, like it's an anti-supernatural sort of position, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just anti-supernatural, but it's anti-anything non-natural. So it would exclude things.
Yeah, I'm a localized natural / materialist, which means for the local world that I know about, everything appears to be natural or material, and that's it. And I would love to be shown I'm wrong somehow. Haven't heard an argument that's valid and sound yet. Haven't seen anything to suggest otherwise, but it'd be cool to find out. For the rest of the universe, I can't talk about it because, I've only seen what limited things I've seen. So I can't say everything is that way. But I could say within my localized reality that I'm aware of, everything appears natural and or material, however you would like to frame that. And that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't negate my position in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. What is your argument? What is your evidence for your position? And what method did you use to get to that conclusion? That's what I'm not hearing. We're not going to hear it, but
It's like numbers, colors, so on and so forth. Any universals.
Yes, numbers, like I said, are objects of the mind. Colors are, well, that actually, you can measure that quantifiably, but what we name them, that's artificial. So, yeah, I guess these things exist in a sense, but in the abstract way, they don't exist in the way that we exist. Like certain concepts are just in the brain, and that's where they live. Like if there was no humans, now maybe there's aliens, but we're not going to get into that. But if there was no humans, there would be no number one. That's it. There'd still be a tree, but nobody would be around to call it a tree. Nobody would be around to call it the one. There is no one out there in the universe that you can find and grab and hold and eat, and because the one is a concept of the mind. It's an abstract idea. That's it. So, okay, whatever.
Any transcendentals, anything like that in philosophy. Now, I've done philosophy enough that I've encountered some really powerful and knockdown, drag out arguments that really devastate the naturalistic and materialistic position. If you look,
well, that's cool. You got any citation for those arguments? Let's see. Lots of hashtags. Let's see. Maybe it's in the pinned comment. No? Huh. Well, I'd love to know what arguments you're talking about so I can analyze them for logical fallacies, but oh well, whatever. You just have arguments. I believe you.
like, I can show you these, but it's called the waning of materialism. I think there's like 26 philosophers in that volume.
A whole 26 philosophers? Wow! That must make it true. Anyways, whatever. I don't know why you didn't link it in this video, but whatever. If it's important enough for me to analyze, he would have given it. So it's a nothing burger. Moving on. I'm not going to look it up. I don't care. If he didn't link it, I'm not going to bother looking it up for him.
I think that was published in 2010, if I'm not mistaken, Oxford University Press. So it's really good.
It's really good. Sure.
Credentials there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll tell you something. I've not been published in Oxford University Press. Let's just say that.
Well, keep trying. Maybe you'll get there.
Don't just get that as your free card just because you got a doctorate and several degrees or something like that. So it's top-notch research there.
Yeah.
And
wait, philosophical research? How does that work? What are you researching in philosophy exactly?
And published in 2010, like I said, and it's got, I think, 26 different chapters and contributors in there.
Oh, 26
that
chapters.
All have their academic philosophers have concerns about.
Oh, they have concerns. Oh, well, there you go.
Materialism, and it doesn't see that John is aware of this, but hopefully you are now.
Well, I'm convinced. Bunch of philosophers said that X is true, therefore X must be true. They're all really professional. They know what they're doing. They wrote a book, and they all agree on this one topic, and they're all really smart. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's nice. I'm not going to link the thing, but it's out there. You can find it. Sure, yeah, I guess. I don't know. But are they saying anything? Okay, they're saying materialism has X, Y, and Z problem, whatever that might be. Okay, and even if that was true and they could actually give a valid and sound argument for it, which I doubt, but even if they could, that doesn't make supernaturalism true. And this is the fallacy of of, well, but it's either there is or isn't. Yeah, there is or isn't a supernatural realm, right? But proving naturalism false, even if you could somehow do that, wouldn't make supernaturalism true. You would still need to prove supernaturalism is true. The good doctor is in chat, so I have to interact with him now because he's here. Hey, deconvertedman1@gmail.com. We can set up a time and day to talk because this is a mid-sized dive into your videos. Maybe you could actually give me some empirical evidence for repeatable tests for God. Oh, wait, we can't do that. Right. Maybe you can give me a valid and sound argument for God. Now, I know you've presented Pascal's wager, and I know you're a fan of Thomas Aquinas' arguments, and I was doing debunking those. I haven't done the next one yet. I debunked the first one. So other than those arguments that I think are complete, utter garbage, do you have any new arguments that I might consider? Because I've heard all the arguments. Well, I can't say all. I've heard many of the arguments that apologists have. You know, cosmological, the kalam, the moral argument. You know, I've heard all that. I'd like something new. And if you don't have something new, then I've probably already debunked it and explained the logical fallacies. Not that it would matter because, you know, you're a professor of philosophy. You know your stuff, right? Want to talk about David Burnett's argument in Are You Simple? No, I don't care about. I don't know what that is, and I don't know why I should care. Why are you talking about philosophy if you don't understand philosophical research? Why not? I don't know what philosophical research would be. Like, hey, look, let's research Kant. He said stuff. Wow, that was hard. Bought a book on Kant. I guess I did research on it. Whatever. You know. Like I said, I don't know why we give degrees to philosophy. I mean, whatever. We do. You know, it's not my... I mean, I don't make the decisions. But my thing is informal logic. That's the only thing that I am sort of good at, and I'm an amateur logician at best because I haven't been paid yet. I don't need a doctorate to point out logical errors. And in these videos, we had multiple, but basically we didn't even have an argument because no syllogism was given. But we had him saying both that there was evidence, but evidence means evidence, and evidence doesn't necessarily point to the thing, but it could indicate the thing. But then in this other video, he said, well, but no, there isn't any scientific evidence because the thing is not scientific in the first place. So there isn't evidence. So there is evidence, but there's kind of evidence, but there sort of is kind of, you know, it's a shell game. And there's problems with naturalism and materialism and whatever. And, you know, but these people wrote a paper about it. Go read the paper and analyze that for logical fallacies. And once you've done that and exhausted yourself, you will still be in the same position you are because, you know, I'm not convinced, but whatever. You don't have the thing. This is the problem with the supernatural, and it is magic. For all intents and purposes, it is equivalent to magic. Why should I believe it's a thing in the first place? Other than just it's been named. We named it. I agree with that. It's an object of the mind. I agree with that. But there's no test. We can't test it. That's a problem. And we can't observe it, which is a different problem. But there's nothing that we can do to say that it is what it is other than the pure definitional approach. So if that's the case, then it is an object of the mind only, and it isn't anything more. No empirical evidence, no repeatable test, no valid and sound argument from these videos. And I understand they're short videos taken from longer stuff, but still nothing here. I am unimpressed. Not that being impressed would matter, because all that should matter is the argument. Well, we don't have that here either. So we have no reason to agree with his conclusions. And I also note a lack of actual answering to the questions. Like I asked about magic and the doctor didn't respond to my question. He just accused me of saying that Christians believe in magic. You guys do, but it doesn't matter. I didn't actually do that, but you didn't answer my question. So, yeah, I don't even want to read the literature. I don't care. Somebody said something. So what? Just give the argument that they made. I'm not going to read an entire book. You just give me the argument, give me the evidence. That's it. You know, it's not that hard. I've read scientific peer-reviewed published papers. So I've looked into that stuff. I understand that stuff to some degree, but I'm not going to, you know, this is your burden of proof to convince me that it's true. So just give me their argument. And so I can analyze that argument for logical fallacies. I guarantee it's going to have some. At this point, I would love to find one that didn't, but I haven't so far. You know. No, it's not a straw man about magic. I asked you a question. You refused to answer that question. You're not engaging. So I made a statement, declarative statement about reality. You haven't interacted with that statement about reality. Is it a good reason to believe in magic? Yes or no? It's not a straw man. It's just a question. You know, like my challenge video, and again, I'll put that up because he wasn't here when I mentioned that challenge video. Let me put that up again. Here's that. My lack of engagement was due to sniffing out your straw man. It's not a straw man. It's not a straw man. I didn't say that your argument was X, Y, and Z. I said magic is real. The problem is the magical realm refuses to be tested. And I said, you know, and why should we? Is that a good reason to believe in the magical realm? It's very simple. It's either yes or no. It's either yes, it's a good, you know, I've laid out a conjecture about this realm that I'm saying that exists and saying that we're not allowed to test it because that's the nature of that realm. And then asking why I should or shouldn't believe in that realm. It's not a straw man. But, you know, you're the professor. You will analyze, then debunk it. I will be like you. Well, I hope so, doctor. Have you learned informal logic in all your studies of stuff? That'd be nice. I'd love to know if you knew informal logic, or I mean, you know philosophy, but you know, what about informal logic? Did you know that one? Anyways, my email once again is deconvertedman1@gmail.com. I will await your message to me where you give me a day and time that we can interact with each other directly rather than indirectly as we are now. But as far as my mid-sized dive into Dr. Derek McAllister, his videos that I looked at didn't have any empirical evidence, didn't have any repeatable tests, didn't have a valid and sound argument. And so for those reasons, we must be skeptical of his conclusions. That's all for now, everybody. Lobsters exist, and I'll see you next time. Didn't read your comment about your courses in logic. Okay, is it informal logic or formal logic? You have courses in logic? Okay, why aren't you using logical arguments then? I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to read. No, you're not hearing what I'm saying, doctor. Very, very bad hearing. Okay, that's all right. Email me and we'll set up a talk. I'll wait. Won't hold my breath for it, but I know you'll totally talk to a skeptic. Oh wait, no, that would probably not be good. All right. Until next time, be skeptical. The only things that exist that are from repeatable empirical data. Okay, you guys aren't listening. All right, cool. I'm done. See you next time.